stand and join me in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And at this time, we're going to ask Councilman Bond to give us our invocation.
Could we bow our heads, please? Oh, Heavenly Father, we come to you this afternoon to say thank you. Thank you for all the blessings that you showered down upon us. Thank you for giving us the greatest gift that we could receive, your Son, my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Please, Lord, bless us and let us, the council, do the work of the people to make our little town more beautiful, cleaner, and a pleasant and decent place to live. Give the councilmen the wisdom, the knowledge, and the courage to do what's right for the town of Edenton. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Councilman Bond.
We have 2 cars parked in curbside voting. The signs were still up and everything, and we still have voting that goes till 7:30. So I need the 2 cars moved.
This is news, I have no idea. Did you know happy here? Just one thing, because of space with the high school demolition, we had partnered with the Board of Elections and they opposed to facilitate some of the voting units. And it should be, yes.
For those of you who may not be aware, our normally East Edenton precinct votes at the National Guard Armory by the high school on Broad Street, and due to the high school construction project, there's no parking there. And so we have partnered with the Chowan County Board of Elections to hold the East Edenton elections in our adjoining room over here, and they have curbside parking that we need to honor. So we're going to hold off until Mr. Mishner and the other individual comes back.
We need to call tow truck, or okay?
Okay, our next order of business is approval of the minutes from our regular meeting on April 9th and April 22nd, and also the closed session minutes from the same dates. Action is required. Are there any comments or requests for corrections on the minutes?
I make a motion to accept the minutes as written.
Okay, do you have a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? There being none, all in favor of the approval of the minutes as presented, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Our next order of business is public comment. We have 3 individuals who have signed up to speak tonight. Would like to remind each speaker that your public comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker, and we'll go in the order that you signed up. The first person who signed up was David Littman. Mr. Littman, if you'll come forward, please.
Good evening. Thank you for letting me speak with you today. My name is David Littman, and I want to talk to you about the town of Edenton and our approach to accommodating people with disabilities. You may not realize that as I'm talking to you, to hear my voice. Well, I myself have a disability. became deaf at the age of 26. To start this conversation, I want to share with you my personal experience of trying to gain communication access to these town hall meetings. I made a request back in September 2023 under the ADA Title II that people with disabilities must have equal opportunity to participate in and benefit from town services, programs, and activities. Based on your own ADA plan, requests for accommodations need to be submitted no less than 3 days before the event in question. After some initial hiccups, I did have some good conversations with Tyler Newman, but I'm still waiting, 8 months later, to get communication access to these meetings. My goal in sharing this with you today is not just about myself trying to gain access to these meetings, but to work with town for us to become more proactive in how we accommodate people with disabilities. What I mean by that, people with hearing loss. Do we make sure the town's video content that we share has professional captions added to that content? Isabel 20, for example. I tried to go see that in theater, didn't have captions, so that means it wasn't accessible to me. For people with vision loss, do we think about how they're able to accommodate access downtown safely, crossing the street, things like that? Do we give any thought to that? For people with mobility issues, this room, when we're designing this room, do we think about people with mobility issues might access this room and feel comfortable? When we advertise for any events, do we make sure that people with disabilities know how to make a request and who to contact? Do we actively work with our Chamber of Commerce for private businesses to learn how to make their goods and services accessible? These are some of the questions I want us to think about. You might be thinking, why is there a need to make these changes for people with disabilities? Selfishly, as a deaf person needs it, I say yes. But the data also backs up the need for us to think about how we accommodate people with disabilities. Just want to talk about older adults for a minute. In Chowan County, 26% of the population is over 65. That's 1.5 times higher than the average county in North Carolina. How many of them have access to barriers? If you think about it, as we get older, we have more mobility issues, more vision loss, more hearing loss. Are they comfortable getting access? Now I come to this conversation with expertise in hearing loss. I work on the Department of Health and Human Services. One of the things we often talk about is statistics related to hearing loss. For people between the age of 65 and 74, 40% have hearing loss. For people 65 to 74, for people of over 74, that number goes to 80%. Okay? Many of these people won't self-disclose about the hearing loss, so we as Edenton need to be more proactive to help them feel comfortable. So I strongly feel there's a need in Edenton to have a game plan and how we make sure people with disabilities are welcome and not restricted to gain access. So I appreciate your time today listening to me and hope we can have a follow-up conversation about this. But please remember, if we do have that conversation, I will need communication access for myself. Okay, thank you for your time.
Mr. Lippman? Mr. Lippman, thank you for bringing this to our attention. We have newly added to our agenda an agenda item entitled the Manager's Report. And when items of interest are brought to us, such as yours, we have the manager contact you and work with you and report back to you, and also report back to the general public at our next meeting or the meeting after that. So thank you for bringing that to our attention, and we will work with you on those issues. The next resident who has signed up, John Mitchner. John, come forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. In April, I shared with you my concern for the building at 103 West Queen, which is adjacent to Southern Bank at 101 West Queen. It's a two-story building, plenty of bedrooms and space in there, and sorely in need of repair, updating, paint, everything. I read in the paper since April that the town had bought some property from Ms. Harwell and her cohorts. That's good. And I'm hoping somewhere there's some good news with things that may happen to 103 West Queen. Thank you.
Thank you, John. And the third, final person that has signed up to speak tonight is Susan Lewis. Susan.
Good evening, y'all. I want to first congratulate the town on recently won awards. Good work on that leadership. I rise now, though, to ask for a bit of an update, which I gather may be coming in the manager's report anyway, but we have been told that the town attorney has asked Judge Tillett for a hearing, and we've been told that it would probably be May 27th, and we don't know what happened next. So I hope we will hear something of that. Thank you.
And I think Manager Gooden will provide us some information on that, and also Mr. Michener's concern during his manager's report. And as always, we thank you all for coming tonight. I am pleased to announce that our next agenda item is a special presentation by Joy Harwell, the Executive Director of the Edenton Chowan Education Foundation. As we do with our other partners, we like to hear at least an annual update from our partners, and this year had marked the first year of support by the town of Edenton to the Edenton Chowan Education Foundation, and there was an initial allotment of $35,000 that went to that group for the 2023-2024 budget, and so we're happy to have Ms. Harwell here tonight to report to us some things that have been going on with the foundation. So Joy, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Do I also only get 3 minutes?
Not on the agenda.
Y'all settle in then. Hopefully I won't even take that long. I really here thank y'all so much for giving me a reason to be here. This has been a fabulous year for the Educational Foundation. And I really just wanted to report back to you, in all the organizations in which I have been involved since coming to Edenton almost 15 years ago, I have to say that this to me is the most important, because all of the other things that we're doing for this group of people that the Educational Foundation is serving. This is our future, and if they are not well formed and they are not capable of appreciating what we are doing for them, then it's kind of all for naught. So I really just appreciate so much the investment that you all have made in these students. As you can see, out of that $35,000, about, I don't know the percentages, probably about 60%, I guess, went to field trips. And I'm pointing this out first because one of the things that people don't understand is that most of the time, if these students want to go on a field trip, if it is not in the school system's budget, which if it's coming to us, that means it wasn't in the school system's budget, then the advisor for that group, which is usually a teacher, is having to fundraise for that field trip. And so what we have in essence done is give those teachers that time back to spend on instruction and put their energy where it's supposed to be. So it's been great for these teachers who have been able to come to us and get the money to go on these field trips. And in addition, it's been wonderful for some of the students because, either the students have to pay for it themselves or they have to help fundraise. So this, these things really make it an opportunity for more people to participate. And I'm not talking about just the little field trips. Like we sponsored a field trip downtown a couple of times. So, there wasn't a lot of transportation involved. But then we also have some groups like the Family, Career, and Community Leaders of America. They're going to Seattle, Washington. Like all these middle schoolers and high schoolers, they're able to go to Washington. Well, while they're there, they're gonna have expenses that aren't covered. I mean, all their transportation is covered, but then they've gotta pay for food and housing and anything that they wanna do while they're there. So we were able to help with that. And we've got another group that's going to Texas, and so we're able to help with that. So it's really been an absolute, just privilege to be able to help these groups do these amazing things. We hear so much about kind of the negative stuff and the things that people really get excited to talk about because it's fun to talk about bad things, but they kind of downplay all of this really great stuff that's happening in our schools. And so I appreciate you all supporting that and making that possible. Additionally, we have been able to give grants. If any of you are on Facebook, sometimes you might see teachers put up their Amazon wish list and they're trying to get people to buy supplies for them. And there have been several times where I've seen a teacher that I know doing that on Facebook, and I've been able to reach out and say, hey, you don't have to mess with that. You don't have to worry about that. If you'll just fill out a grant request, we can actually handle those supplies. And we've done some, things from headphones, because as you may or may not know, everything's on technology now. Everything's on the computer. So in order for them to be able to hear, they need headphones or earbuds. So we've been able to do that for a lot of classrooms. Some classrooms need alternative seating. We've all been there. We've got the fidgety kid in the class who struggles to stay in a desk, and it's good to be able to give them an alternative place to sit and learn. So things like that. And then you've got STEM supplies. I don't know if any of you used to take apart your parents' VCR just to see how it works, but I know that gave me great pleasure to do. And so it's really nice to be able to buy these kits for these children where they can learn how things are made without having to be disrupted. There was a National History Day trip to ECSU, a math competition. We had one student who just happened to be my son, went to the state level. So, lots and lots of different things that we don't necessarily think about when we think about school that you all have enabled us to support, and I appreciate that. We did set aside part of the money for teacher appreciation. Johnny Holmes does not have a PTA, and so we have been able to do some nice little things for them, like Jonathan Tobias and Russell Corker and all those guys came in and sang to them at Christmas time. And we gave out little gift baskets. That was a lot of fun. And, just various things like that that make them feel appreciated and supported. Any questions?
Joy, do you have an annual budget, and what percentage is this 35,000?
Very significant.
What's that?
Very significant.
Okay.
We do have a budget, and I will say that we do receive funds from other sources, but nothing close to this. I mean, this has by far been the biggest grant that we've ever received from an entity. Most of the money that is given with the Educational Foundation is given for scholarships. People like to give scholarships, and so we have people who want to come and do that, like in honor of someone who's passed or someone who's done something nice, but not a lot of money for grants.
Is there any sense that this has improved morale among the teachers and the recipients and the children, just anecdotally?
Yes, I get thank yous. I get, teachers have told me repeatedly how much they appreciate this and how nice it's been. So yeah, absolutely.
Any other questions from council?
I have one, I think it would be beneficial, like when we talked about the volume of the grant funding, I think it would be also kind of interesting to see, like, if we look back in 22, 23 calendar year, the number of either grants that you had for classroom needs or either for some of these field trips, like, how does that compare? I mean, was there a big uptick?
Well, we were actually really excited the year before because we were actually able to squeeze out $10,000 to give out in grants. So that was money that we had raised, and mostly via the bonfire. And so that year we thought we were rich because we had $10,000 to give out. So to have 35 plus George Lewis, who is on the Board of Education, he actually donates his income from the Board of Education. So that money also goes to grants. And then St. Paul's had some money that they gave us for like family emergencies, not particularly grants per se, but yeah.
Is that St. Vincent de Paul's?
I'm sorry?
What did you say,
St. Paul's Church.
St. Paul's
Yeah,
Church,
St. Paul's
okay.
Church.
Okay.
There were some funds there that that we can now use to help students who have had family situations. And the Optimist Club gives us a little bit of money to do the same thing. And I will say this, you know, we're not really talking about this tonight, but I know that there are other avenues where the foundation and the town could work together to serve this group of citizens, and I look forward to that. Anything that I can do to help you all reach your goals, I'm happy to do. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We next move to our committee meetings. The first committee meeting is the Finance Committee chaired by Councilman Dixon.
So we have one thing, it's the Main Street travel request that I don't have the exact figures. I guess we just voted to pay that, and I think it was very, very worthwhile. Hack, the mayor went, town manager, Chess from DDE, and Burton Swain, and I think we learned a lot and brought back a lot of great ideas for Edenton. So I'll put that in motion.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. The next committee meeting that we have is our Public Works Committee chaired by Councilman Costa.
Hey there, two items on the agenda. The first one is the implementation of traffic signage. We received some feedback from citizens in that neighborhood requesting that we implement traffic signs due to the potential increase of, I guess, traffic kind of entering the wrong way, coming in the wrong direction. So we're partnering with Department of Transportation as well as our Public Works Department to ensure that we're putting the signs in the appropriate place. Corey, have we met with DOT to ensure?
We have not. We do plan, once this is approved, to share with them the signage requests that we have. We have had some communication with them, not on this issue, and we're just trying to time it at the same time, where the installs will happen on the same day, so there's not a disconnect on one side of the underpass or the other.
Gotcha. So this approval, this motion is just to go ahead and approve the signage, contingent on the conversation that we have with DOT. So I put that in the form of a motion.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and second. Any further discussion from other council members?
I would just point out that I was approached by somebody that lives out there, and I commend Councilman Carlson and the town. They were very appreciative from those people. So
Yeah, if you ride out there and take a look at it, you can see why it's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, we've got a motion and second. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Also, the next item of business continues under the Public Works Committee. Councilman Costa?
Yep, and that one's gonna be for the pump out station fee reduction. After conversing with the other members of the Public Works Committee, we've decided to go ahead and reduce that fee down to $0. Conversing with the town manager, Corey, it was determined that that fee or that usage doesn't get used that much, so therefore we decided to just go ahead and get rid of that completely. So I put that in the form of a motion as well to reduce that to $0.
Second.
Okay, we've got a motion and second. Any discussion?
I just want to thank the Public Works Committee for reducing that down to free of charge. I think that's going to mean a lot to our visiting builders, and thank you again.
So,
And Corey, you analyzed it and found that there'd be little to no budgetary impact on this.
And so we looked historically after the last meeting. I know that's one of the things that we wanted to put in scale. Historically, we do track this use. We could not find a year where it had been more than 10. So 10 is like a really good placeholder where we looked at this since for the last year, and we've had it used twice. So it's a very small loss in service or loss in service revenue for us.
okay.
And this will be effective July 1.
Unless the group decides differently, this will have no bearing on our budget this
So
year.
it could start immediately?
Yes.
We'll leave for July 1, I think that's
Yeah,
appropriate.
just so, we've talked in the past, if there's something that has some sort of budgetary impact, even minimal, let's start at the next.
Okay.
And I think it would be cleaner like that.
Wait for the new fiscal year.
Right.
Yeah, I think it would be cleaner for the voters. Okay. Thank you for your work on that,
So-
Councilman Costa. The next item is our manager's report.
We ain't vote on it.
Oh, okay, excuse me.
So yeah, that's in the form of a motion.
All right, thank you. Do we have a second?
Yeah, second.
Okay, we've got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? There being none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Next item of business is we have our manager's report from Corey Hood.
Thank you, Mayor. Just to kind of recap, at the last meeting, we did have 2 items that were brought to our attention during public comment. The first was with Mr. Mitchner, who resides on West Queen Street, and he had spoke to the local housing issue in Edenton generically and had specific concerns around the Wazelka house on West Queen Street beside the Southern Bank property. The property in concern was a part of an original conditional use permit during the site approval for the new Southern Bank location. Town staff and elected officials have worked very hard over the last year with the Southern Bank group and are still trying to find an applicable use for the structure and something that will honor the original conditional use of the zoning permit. There have been some recent changes that have altered our initial planning for the 2 groups that we were originally working towards, but we will continue to work with Southern Bank going forward on trying to find an applicable use that satisfies some of the housing needs as well as some of the conditions that were a part of their original permit. So we're trying to balance those 2. They've been very open to communication with us on being a good partner and trying to figure out what's the best fit for that space, and we're going to continue to work with them until we get to that finish line. The next comment that I had was from John Grant, resident on East King Street, specifically concerned around the amount of wire from the internet subcontractor that's in our area. I did want to provide an update to let everyone know that we'll continue to work with telecom providers to clean up and complete most of the installation. There are still items left to finalize in this project, and the majority of what's being seen is where there are interconnections being from some of the larger lines to the smaller lines. To put that in perspective, that's like having a 12-inch water main that needs multiple 8s, 6s, 4s, and 2s to be tied to it to finish feeding that web. That's the majority of what we are seeing that's left. Most of the primary backbone has been installed. These are most of the fiber splicing that still remains in these kind of isolated spots. But the town will continue to keep working weekly with those telecom providers to try to complete the cleanup of these isolated areas. One item, or we had 3 items that were brought to timely and important. The first was by Councilman Bond around the East 6th Street truck traffic congestion from Coastal Concrete. I just wanted to share with the group that work has been completed for this round of concrete. And the gate was closed April 23rd. The area was cleaned because of the increased traffic. I did speak with Mr. Newsom, the owner. He did advise us that they had set up the commercial plant on site closer to these units. They did not anticipate anything needing to be drawn from the local site. So that was kind of an isolated event.
Do they have a satellite location? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Where will that be?
Closer to the windmill projects, not at one of the stationary.
Outside of town?
Yeah, that's right. But as with any type of plant, if there's some type of upset and something were to change that was traumatic at that remote site, there was the possibility of needing that again. But for now, I anticipate that gate remaining closed. The second item I had was from Councilman Miller around the Gressel Furniture parking lot. I did want to share with you and the board, as well as the general public, that conversations have occurred between the property owner of this site, but at this time I can't really share any details around those discussions, but we are working towards an outcome that is beneficial to everyone that's involved.
And Corey, before you move on to that, Councilman Dixon had indicated some of the strategies and things that we saw in the Main Street Conference down in Birmingham, and one of those was with towns and public agencies like Downtown Destination Edenton actually going in and buying parking lots to preserve parking for towns, and also come up with other creative uses to dress it up, to make it look pretty and not look like your standard parking lot. So if we can continue those negotiations we might be able to implement some of the things that we learned.
Would that be an option we could look at?
If that's very possible.
If we get to that point, it's still too early, but I did want to mention it because Councilman Dixon mentioned what we learned down there, and that was one of the things we saw.
And we will work with all of our nonprofit organizations to really try to determine a strategy, once we get to really a serious point with that property owner on some realistic expectations for the sales party and the potentially.
Does he still have it up for sale?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so more to come.
Gotcha.
The third item that was brought up was by Councilman Costin around the Colonial Park restrooms. I did want to share that I've spoken with the park supervisor, and there have been some limited times for restrooms that have occurred due to a lack of park staff. We are still attempting to increase the number of park attendants to provide 2 shifts to extend these hours, but we do not have the personnel numbers at this time to do so. We did last year when we would stagger an earlier shift that would come in, there would be an overlap between 2 and 3 o'clock, and then from 3 until dark, there would be an attendant there. Once we're able to provide that earlier shift, we will plan to extend those hours that those are open. There are limits on the number of hours that part-time staff can work, so we have to balance this number with the number of staff that we have available. We will continue to monitor this situation and make all the necessary improvements to provide longer hours. So we did find out what was causing that. It's just a general lack of staff. We've had this as well as the ambassador's position open for quite some time now. Once we have more candidates that we can get in there, that we can, keep these guys from having 13 and 14-hour shifts, which gets us into some Department of Labor gray areas that we want to avoid, we'll gladly open that. Most of the problem along that is unattended public restrooms do tend to create some problems, with them being damaged or trashed or some type of big major maintenance repair. And safety, just for most of the young folks that are in the park. So we try to make sure there's an adult there when those restrooms are unlocked.
So something that maybe we can, in the meantime, collaborate with PD or, even some of the ambassadors that we do have on staff, just to make sure that the restrooms are open while the park is open, so we don't run into that issue.
Yes, but we have the same problem with the ambassador position. We've been trying to recruit more so we can use those groups from PD as well as the group from the Public Works Department to try to attack this thing in multiples. But it's just as understaffed at this time as the park attendants are. But we're working to fill vacancies in both. I do think that there's a ability there to have some overlap where they stay in that area a little bit longer after, maybe those last couple hours, but whereas the park attendants are really stationary, those ambassadors are really very mobile, and they check kind of a lot bigger area than what the attendants do. So we're gonna try to figure out a creative way of keeping them open longer. We don't like them being closed, but from maintenance and just general public safety standpoint, we're really bound at this time.
And Corey's not directly related to Councilman Costin's concern, but another thing that we did down in Birmingham was visit some public parks and other areas that had some really nice looking bathrooms that from the outside didn't really look like they were a bathroom facility, and got some examples of some things that would fit into Edenton and downtown Edenton, and hopefully that can be part of our future also.
Can I ask you a question, Corey?
Yes.
There's a difference between park attendants and ambassadors, right?
Yes, sir.
Ambassadors are saying that their time has been cut, that they're only working 1 day a week.
If there's been any delays in the number of hours these guys or ladies are getting, it is revolving around the number of hours that they can legally work as a part-time employee. Again, the ambassador position, we encourage folks to apply. We desperately need those. We have the budget for these positions. and that this time we just don't have any candidates to fill some of those vacancies. So if there's been any changes, it's evolved around their classification as a part-time employee.
Okay, because we getting ready to get into this busy season
Yes.
downtown here where we're gonna have folks all over the street. We need these ambassadors to control for us, patrol.
I agree 100%. If the general public or the council or anyone here is aware of folks looking for part-time positions, we're, really pushing to get this. Tammy, I know we've had both up for a really long time. And Tyler's done a great job pushing those out on social media so folks can see that.
How many do we have right now?
Do you know how many total? We have 5 park attendants, and how many ambassadors do we have? Probably 10. So 15. And I mean, we could handle at least another 5 to get that number up to 20, if not a couple more.
Okay.
So,
Just to follow up on the bathrooms down here at the park, will you share your ideas with the waterfront advisory committee? Because that's something that committee will be looking at in the future, right?
we will,
Okay,
yes.
great.
And the last item I have for the manager's report comes from one of our comments tonight, as well as from the April full council meetings around the monument update and the May 27th date. We've also spoke with the newspaper representatives about this. Neither myself nor the town attorney has received any confirmation of any type of hearing date based on when we thought the initial scheduling for that judge would be, and was a possibility of a date to be selected. And still at this point, nothing new to update.
And we stay in touch with our attorney on a regular basis on that. I know that's a concern
Yeah.
that we've heard.
Mayor, that's all I have for my report.
Okay, thank you, and I appreciate the extra effort that it takes for you to do that. I think that agenda item's been working well for us and the general public. Next, we move to items considered timely and important. This is an opportunity for councilmen to let us know things that they do consider timely and important. So,
Can I go?
yep, you sure
Can
can.
we start this way?
I'm gonna start right here with this
All
gentleman.
right.
Okay, this weekend, Sunday was Mother's Day. And like we have a lot of people visiting cemeteries. Vine Oak was really a disgrace for the town of Edenton because you had tall grass and bushes and things out there. My mom is buried at Vine Oak. When I went over to Beaver Hill, spending some time with my father, because that's where he's buried at, it was cut neat. You had a few leaves from the trees there, but it looked like a fine memorial. We got to do better because we've got these 2 cemeteries or memorials that we've hired people to keep them clean. And on a Mother's Day weekend, it looked like they would have took the effort to cut the grass and do it Vine Oaks, and that's just a disgrace.
Can I
you still
follow up
outsource
on
that,
that?
Corey?
Yes.
Yeah.
Can I follow up on that also? So yeah, we definitely need to do a better job in that regard, Councilman Bond. And Corey will definitely state this is true. Sometimes I'll see some things before a big weekend, and Corey has been really, really good when I call him up and say, hey, we're gonna have a lot of people in town this weekend, and I rode by fill in the blank. I rode by Vine Oak, and it really looked bad, and it's Mother's Day. Can we get Public Works or somebody out there, even if it's under contract? And Corey's been willing to move those resources, even if it's a private contractor situation, to clean things up. And so if you see that happening again, if it's like a week beforehand, hopefully it won't happen again, but if you see it, or if any of you see something, we've had big events on the courthouse green, and that's not our duty to mow that, but been by there and the grass is shin high, and Corey's been always willing to devote some resources to clean up things. So if we can all be mindful of that, all of us, if we see things like that, let Corey know, and within reasonable limits, he's been very good about that.
Isn't the contractor on an annual basis, don't you review that contract? Because I've heard the same issue too.
Yeah, that's right, it's an annual contract. I need to see when the date ends on that existing contract, but I will make sure that we discuss that with Public Works in the contract.
And following on what Councilman Vaughn said too, when they do the work, sometimes when they blow the grass, they blow it on top of the tombstone, they don't off the tombstone. I've noticed that to be an issue.
I'm gonna piggyback off that too. So it was some time last year, and I neglected to follow up on it, but, I guess some constituents were saying that, I guess when you enter in on that, like, in Fido, I guess you can actually drive over some of the because there's not an actual right of way, there's no road to get in, or it's not, distinctive as to how you enter and exit, into that cemetery. Is there some way that we can kind of do something about it, I guess, have an access point to get in and out of there? I don't want anyone to be, disrespected, or anyone's welcome to be disrespected by driving over a tombstone or anything like that.
I definitely think that's something we can take care of. One of the things for us, I think initially would be to have the areas surveyed to create those boundaries from those plots that were purchased. There is some challenges on unmarked plots, and I think we want to clearly know where the edges of those were. We really have to tread lightly in the cemeteries. Even from a maintenance standpoint, at Beaver Hill, where we've had some waterline repairs, it's very touchy. So we will see if we can't get the right-of-way boundaries marked so we can clearly see where the intended road was. And it may be beneficial for us also to have some of our GPR friends come and help us from rural water to clearly know there's nothing beneath the surface. But yes, I do think that's something we can take care of. If you remember, there's quite a large stockpile of millings that we have from the last few rounds of pavings, and I think that's a good initial start to put in a base that folks will know to stay on. So, yeah.
And Corey, we always joke about how difficult railroad companies are to deal with. Does that railroad company abandon that railroad bed that cuts through behind or in front of the county office building? I think a portion of it, does that come into the Vine Oak property?
It does.
And does that provide any opportunities at all?
Potentially, there's right away there for utilities because of utilities, underground utilities that are in that area, but the town or the contractor, depending on where you're at between the county office and the actual Vine Oak property, do maintain that space. So yes, it is abandoned. We provide most of the maintenance there. Do I feel like it's something that we would want to put general pedestrian traffic, vehicle traffic on? Probably not, because of what's below the ground.
Okay.
But I do think it could be an opportunity for us to do a little cleanup for at least foot traffic.
Any other items? Councilman Miller?
Anything going on with the Hayden Hotel? Have you received any applications for site development or anything like that?
So we've had 2 meetings with representatives from SOC. We have had some discussions around some updated plans that are more in line with some of the things that the town has been very interested in. We do have a meeting scheduled with the county. We have a solidified date, either June 10th or June 12th, this next month, where those representatives will be here. I think they've really heard some of the concerns that we've had, and we do anticipate having a signed application in the month of June from them with those plans to start that formal process.
Are they getting more open? I mean, they're starting to listen?
Certainly not a promise, but
Right.
it seems like they're finally listening to what we're saying.
Yeah.
and gonna come up with something tangible by mid-June or so, right?
When you say tangible, they talking about selling it to the town readers, selling it back to the town readers?
We've discussed that some.
Great option.
We do want to see, what they're proposing and then ask that again.
What has it been, 8 years in San Luis?
At least.
Yeah, we said,
Eight
on them 30 on our 10.
They started 100 projects in 8 years.
We have asked that question, would you entertain selling? And at this point, we really haven't gotten a solid answer on that.
Okay, any
Yeah,
other
just have
items?
one more.
Okay.
Just to follow up on Granville Street, will the paving begin this month with Barn Hill, you know?
It was supposed to start in April. They have started the part of that bid, if you remember, out towards the Riverton area. That was a part of that full build out. Rather than starting at Riverton and making their way towards town, they did indicate that they were starting at Riverton and actually making their loop around. We do anticipate them being here, but we haven't had anything confirmed yet.
Will the residents be notified a few
Yes.
days ahead of time so they
And
can know
Barn
how to
Hill
make access?
specifically indicated they would let us know ahead of time because of some of the residents' concerns, so we could handle some of the notification that the residents need to let them know that they're coming in to start the work, as well as to try to help with some of the landscaping concerns that residents may have where things are, built out all the way to the road. Talk about walkways, shrubs, things of that nature. So Barn Hill has always been a good local partner, and they do what they say, we haven't worked through the plug of what's on the rest of this contract yet, so.
And no current date given on Broad Street.
And even though it's two separate contractors, they are aware that we need to stagger those so that Broad Street's not closed at the same time as Granville Street. Councilor
One
Dixon.
quick thing,
Yeah.
I just want, I think it's been interesting that as Hayes has gone from a very private place to a very public place, that we've had two big events in the last month, one this weekend, and it was out on the waterfront that a ton of people came to, and then the chamber banquet, I think was highly successful, maybe the most successful ever. And I just think, and you can't go over there on any day when it's warm and not see people swimming now. So it's given this access to younger people to get out there and sort of play and swim, and they have access to the water. And I mean, I think that Hayes is important to a great partnership with the town, and I think it's almost like having a central park right next to town. And if any of y'all want to see it, I encourage you to call me, and I'll take you and show you anything you want to see. I'll talk to you too long about it. If you want to go see it, and I think soon we'll have some more plans how the towns will interact, and it's open every day from sun up to sundown, and people are walking and exercising over there. But the swimming part of it really makes me happy.
Sabo, is there a AED type situation for something like that? Just thinking out loud, just because I'm involved with an association that anywhere they're swimming and things like that, access in case something happens.
It's a totally swim at your own risk right now. I mean,
Yeah.
we don't have.
So it is at your own risk?
Yes, that's
Okay,
right. I mean,
all
I
right,
think at
that's what I
some
wanna make
point
sure.
we'd like to maybe put something
Yeah,
in place. I mean, that would have to be a town thing that
Right.
we do, but
just
right
thinking out
now,
loud.
it's really shallow.
Okay,
I mean, how far do you think you have to walk out
Shallow
to get
for a long
to get
period
to
of
your
time.
waist?
okay,
You
all
might
right,
have to go, 25 yards to get to your waist.
yeah.
So,
Probably longer.
yeah, probably longer, yeah.
I have one thing. Corey, where are we at with the groundbreaking of the neighborhood park? So this is one of them.
So we received, we wanted to go and get started with the shelters, which is the last update. This past week, we went out and identified the locations. We're gonna be starting on Paxton Lanes, playground shelter first, and we're moving to Griffin Park, and then we're headed to Stratford Hawthorne. All those places have been Park, we've been able to work with a local vendor to go ahead and get those started. We should see construction in less than 30 days at Paxton. So the shelters will go in place first, as well as, you know, some of the accessibility updates that we're trying to iron out. At that point, then we'll start with some of the landscaping that's needed, some of the updating of any of the existing assets that are there, like the basketball courts, and anything we need to do to make them more appealing. And then the last thing will be the newer playground equipment. That's the things that we noticed. We've had 3 different sessions on site where we've had the public come to those local neighborhood parks, showing the renderings that we got from Carolina Park and Play, and get some feedback almost at every location. The number one thing was really the need for those shelters. When we went to the state Main Street as well as the national Main Street, that was one of the things that we were blown away by, was the number of folks that shared with us just how many times families are using neighborhood parks to do birthdays and reunions and just general celebrations. And we heard that in those comments. That's why folks wanted the shelters, the covered areas, the places with the trash cans, as well as the park, picnic benches, to go ahead and start doing that. So that's going to be the first thing.
So the grills and the picnic benches will be included with the shelters?
Yeah. So all of that will happen first. There is lead times on the equipment. If you remember, one of the parks went after an accessibility grant because of its size. And so we're trying to time all these things to really stretch those dollars. But within 90 days, all 3 of those initial parks will have their shelters in place.
Oh, that's great.
So we're very excited about that. You know, we wanted to start with Paxton Lane when we consider some of the sidewalk needs that we've been discussing, getting that in there, getting that space walkable to get you to it. We've heard your call, and that's why we're going to start with that location.
So you're saying by the end of summer, this will be?
The shelters will be, yes.
The park that you were talking about on Martin Luther Drive, the rural land, the other section of land that the family wanted named after them, have we struck a deal with them? Have we acquired it?
No, we have not. We've had some discussions with them earlier in the year. We were apart on where everyone was comfortable with the board. I'd like to re-engage them to see, to let them know we're still interested. That really changes the design and the layout of what that park will look like. Does it stay as its existing footprint, or does it expand? But at this time, we were not able to come to any type of agreement with the family on that parcel.
Okay, thank you all for bringing that to our attention. The next item is a closed session, and pursuant to North Carolina General Statute 143-31811A5, this public body needs to go into closed session to instruct the public body staff on negotiating positions related to real estate and also economic development. And as such, I will consider a motion that we go into closed session for those purposes. Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Okay, this time we'll be going into closed session, and we thank everyone for being here tonight. Appreciate it.